Welcome to the Sandy and Toddcast, a podcast about all things strange, unusual, and a little bit odd. Why? Because that's how we roll. What are we talking about this time? Check it out. Is this really episode 12 already, Todd?
We do this bit every show, which is where you go, is it really? And I go, it is. And then we go, oh, and then we go, ee.
But it's funny because I don't do it on purpose. I just can't believe it. I lose track of it. I'm very anal retentive, so I keep folders for everything, and each episode has its own folder with everything that we talk about. Any prep work I do, anything at all, any research. And so each and every week, I say to myself, geez, I have to label these. I just label them episode 1, episode 3, episode 6. I have to label them so I'm never surprised. And then each and every week, I get surprised by what episode this is.
I want to ask you a question because you said anal retentive.
Okay.
Do you remember there was a bit on Saturday Night Live? The guy was Phil Hartman. Great voice guy, great. He did great impersonations and stuff like that. He did a sketch called The Anal Retentive Chef. Did you ever see that?
You know what? That sounds very familiar to me. I'm sure
he was really very anal retentive. So let's say he chopped some onions and he had the onion skin. He would take the onion skin, wrap it in plastic wrap, then in tin foil and fold it up into little things and then throw it away. That's how anal retentive he was. So the anal retentive chef, he actually never got to the point of cooking because he was so worried about getting rid of the waste.
That almost would be me. In a lot of ways, that would be me. I can't just leave a pen on the floor. I have to pick up that pen. If I think that I left a piece of paper on the floor in my studio and I go downstairs to go to the bathroom, I can't go to the bathroom until I go back upstairs, make sure that piece of paper isn't on the floor and it's in the basket, and then I can go to the bathroom.
There are certain things, and you're probably like me, there are certain things you're OCD about and certain things you're not.
Right, and that's exactly how it goes for me. There are certain things in my life that have to be exactly the way that I want them to be, and then there are other things I do not care about at all.
Right. Same.
So this is going to be a great episode because last week we asked some of our listeners, our friends, people that we know on Facebook to give us some of their dreams that they had, whether recurring dreams or scary dreams, dreams they don't understand. We're going to talk about dreams this episode. But first, we have some weird news. I have a question I want to ask you.
Okay.
And let's kick off this episode by saying thank you to Bangladesh for new downloads. Bangladesh loves us. They love us. So now
we should get a world map, and then every time there's a listener, we'll put a little pin in it, like they used to do on TV.
We have 3 listeners in Bangladesh. Bangladesh,
Hey!
I know. So that's pretty exciting to me. I watch that thing like a hawk to see who's downloading our stuff. We can't see who's listening per se, but we can tell who's downloading our episodes, and I think that's a lot of fun. So it's just kind of something neat to do. We're doing really well. The U.S., of course, adores us. But
let's not push it. They
Virginia loves
deal
us.
with us.
Virginia, New York. We just added
she's
Georgia.
a lovely lady, actually. Virginia's very, very nice.
Virginia's very, very nice to us. We just added Georgia this week. So many new ones, and so I'm very excited about that. Did you hear about Ronnie DeFeo Jr.?
Oh, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about it real quick. He passed away, 69 years old. Passed away in Albany Medical Center, which is just about an hour and 15 minutes away from where I live here in central New York. He was in prison in New York State, and so far they're saying unknown causes. They have no idea.
So Ronnie DeFeo is the young man who was convicted of killing his family in the Amityville horror house. That was where this supposedly the whole story kind of began. Was this guy went around and shot his family one night, went out drinking, and then said, the cops and blah, 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 and there's dead people and all that kind of stuff. So he passed away, and it was so weird because apparently he passed away on Friday, but they really didn't release the information until Monday of this week.
Which makes sense to me. They wouldn't want people knowing that he was in the hospital, that he was in the area. I mean, it's still to this day a sensitive subject for people, and what is really, I told you that I feel almost sad about it because he was the last link to the murders. And over the years, I kind of thought to myself, well, maybe we'll have a deathbed confession. You know, you throw these ideas around in your head. Maybe he will finally come clean and not tell 15 different stories about what happened, that he'll actually come clean and say what happened. Now, do I think that really would happen? I don't even know that he knows what happened. I really don't know that he knows for sure what happened. I think that it's a great mix of whatever paranormal was going on in that house and his own dysfunction sort of melded together, and that's why you got what you got. And so I don't even know to this day that he even ever knew what really happened.
Right. I think that probably played a little bit into why his story continued to change, because you kind of think you know what's going on, and then you realize maybe it's not quite that. And obviously, you know, if there was some sort of psychological stuff going on, you know, there could have been some lying and all that too. But like you said, it would be nice to know now. So now the question is, can you go back to the house and investigate and try and talk to him and get a straight answer?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
I had a conversation on Monday. I was having a conversation about paranormal stuff when the story came out, and that took a left turn in the conversation. And, you know, we were both basically saying, you know, this guy is the guy. He's the only one who really knows what happened that night. And because now he's gone, we'll never know. Like you said, we all had this little hope that at some point we'd find something out. And now it's just not going to happen unless we find out somewhere down the road that there's some sealed documents that you know, that he put together or something. But Ronnie DeFeo, 69.
It truly is a mystery for the ages. And, you know, I was watching this thing on YouTube the other day about all of his different stories. And in one story, he said that his father was the equivalent of Satan. And in the next story, it shows him in an interview saying how his dad was his best friend. I mean, that's just an example of the two extremes that he would go to in everything. So you just can't trust him. You can't believe him. There's no way of knowing for sure. And that's why it's a little sad to me, because we're never going to know now. There's not even a chance of knowing now. So,
again, unless we go and investigate and get Ronnie on the phone.
I know.
You know.
I would love to do that. But, you know, that's just me. So,
summer trip.
And I would do it. I would do it.
Hey, Dave, guess where we're going this summer?
I would. You can fly into JFK, and we'll meet up in Amityville, and we'll do our thing. You know, these three weirdos standing on the sidewalk in front of the house with, you know, digital recorders.
Like they've never seen that before, I'm sure.
I know. So, all right, I have a question for you.
Now
that we're
ready.
talking paranormal, as usual. I did that investigation a couple of weeks ago. One of the men who is in my paranormal investigating group, it's his house. 1839 it was built. Gorgeous, gorgeous house, all limestone, near water. I mean, it was just a hot spot for paranormal activity. Throughout the recording, I've been slowly going through the video footage. There were mad orbs everywhere in the upstairs section of the house. There were orbs in the bedroom, there were orbs in the office, they were in the hallway, they were on the stairs, they were everywhere. And I told you the other day that my outlook on orbs, I used to really discredit orbs, really discredit them, because I think that I was using them as sort of like standalone evidence. I said, oh, I don't know if that can be real. That's dust, that's a bug. And then the more I learned, the more I realized that there is definitely a difference, to me, between a bug, a spider, dust, energy. And I'm really starting to change my outlook on orbs. Now, I was watching some of these orbs in the bedroom, and they were literally pulsating. And the bedroom was the place that I felt so much energy. I remember saying, this room is so charged that it feels heavy, like a fog. And there's orbs everywhere, especially when I'm talking, there's orbs. What is your take on orbs, Todd?
I think first off, like anybody who wants to be a decent investigator, you got to rule out that it's any kind of fly, a bug. Okay. And there's ways to do that. I still stay very skeptical. I've had people go, well, that's an orb. Look, this is an orb. And I still look at it and go,
Or how about the people who say that they can see faces in the orbs? I'm sorry, but I don't see faces in orbs. And I'm not
and usually if you got videos of orbs, it's not so clear and concise that you're going to see a face in it anyway.
If you blow it up enough, you might see anything.
Right, because in matrixing, you're going to see variations in the orb, and it's going to look like something to you, because like looking up at the clouds and seeing a donkey, same thing. But I do think when I started changing my perspective on what, quote unquote, a haunting was, and started changing my perspective on how what we're really dealing with here are various forms of energy, I put more credence into orbs.
Yep.
Because they are a form of energy.
Yep, me too.
And so does it mean that something's haunted? No. Does it mean that there's like crazy energy there? Probably. And so, again, when I changed my mindset on what haunting was or what ghosts were and all that kind of stuff, I changed my perspective on orbs. But again, I'll be the first to go, Now, having seen some of the video you showed me and the light play that we are seeing up on that second floor, I would tend to agree that you've got some sort of energy up there. If what we were seeing from the ground floor up was coming from the energy and the orbs you were seeing in the other room, that would be really interesting.
You're right. And I think that that's a distinct possibility. It's funny because, like I said, I looked at them as standalone evidence, and that's why I discounted them so easily for many years. But then now, as I'm learning new things about myself and my abilities and the things I can do and what I can feel, now I'm starting to look at them as part of the entire investigation, part of the entire end product, and I'm looking at them differently now. And I don't think I've ever seen orbs that literally pulsated as they were going through the air. It's very hard.
She's actually doing a hand gesture, which to be honest turns me on. But I mean,
Lord. I'm not dating you. Good. So yeah, I just wondered what your take was on that, because for both of us, we have been in sort of a transition phase in the past year or so, where we started really looking at a lot of things very differently than we did before. And it's a great journey to be on because we're even more open-minded than we were before. But it's just really taken me into a different place to experience myself all of this stuff rather than watch it on a TV show.
Right. And taking that person's perspective as the God honest truth or the end all be all kind of thing, because it's just not. Everybody's experience is different. And whatever works for you, not necessarily you, but for the listener, whatever works is great.
It's sort of like the conversation we've had about evidence. I feel things. I can tell things are happening. I can tell energies. But we also have, are you making the pulsating look?
Yeah, when you said I can feel things, I went like that.
He can feel things. Tune in Tokyo. And so...
Beep, boop, 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 boop.
Boop, boop, boop. So, it's scientific instruments along with personal experiences that I think make for a real investigation, a real outcome, rather than counting one or the other standalone. So, thanks for your opinion on that one, Todd.
You got it.
Are you ready for weird news?
Let's do it. And now, weird news.
So, Todd, it looks like Satan may have entered the dating pool on the Boston subway system.
Oh, perfect.
He's looking for love apparently in all the wrong places. A city transit police officer says that a 20-year-old woman reported that she had an encounter with a man dressed all in black. He even had a black mask covering his entire face at one of the train stations back on March 1st. Now, the woman told police that the man typed, I program Satan on his phone and showed it to her. When officers spoke to the man, who's 22 years old, he said he was only flirting with the woman and he was trying to get her number. So that's really not how I'd like to be hit on.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Like, my next question was, did she fall for it? Because if she did, and let's say they had a little romp on the subway system, then could it be like Rosemary's Daughter or Rosemary's Baby or something like that, where all of a sudden she's given the birth of Satan's child, 666,
My love affair
all that
with
kind
Satan
of stuff.
on the Boston subway system. But
There's the name of a book right there. My Love Affair with Satan.
Here's my question, though. How did they know who he was if he had a mask on, unless she actually talked to him, right?
Right.
So,
right. I mean,
how would they
gonna
know?
Point the guy out? I don't know, and he was wearing a mask because guess what? It's COVID right now, so a lot of people are wearing masks, right?
Right.
I mean, come on.
I just find it really, really funny that Satan would be looking for love on the Boston subway system.
Really? Because maybe that's the best place for him to find love when you
It's
really
possible.
think about it.
You never know. I'd go with New York City, but that's just me.
I want to find love. I'm going to go in the subway system.
Love and romance are alive and well for Satan. So how about this one? A woman in Tennessee may have broken a Guinness World Record for her collection of Winnie the Pooh memorabilia. Did you hear about this?
No.
This woman, her name is Donna Fee. She started collecting Pooh items when her son was little, about 31 years ago. She has 16,147 items now, and more are coming in every day. Her husband is actually helping her with it. He actually, when he sees something, he calls her or texts her to say, hey, do you have this? And if she doesn't, he gets it for her. The record for the largest Winnie the Pooh collection is 14,314 items. So my question to you is, when does it go from being a fun little hobby to an obsession?
Isn't it when you've got more than, let's say, a dozen items that you've collected from something? Like, do you have any collection of something that's rather large?
I did collect. Here's one thing, and it's nice to have a goal. I think it's nice to have a goal. Several years ago, I loved Nancy Drew books when I was growing up. So
okay.
I love Nancy Drew. So I got it in my head that I was going to. There's different editions of the Nancy Drew books over the years. So I got it in my head that I was going to collect all of the original ones. So there's 40 of them, maybe 40 volumes. And I did. I collected every single one. So I
Do you still have them?
I did. I had to. This breaks my heart. Now, I will say this. They weren't all in pristine condition because pristine condition ones cost hundreds of dollars a piece. So I would get them in fair condition, maybe, a little less than good, fair condition for, $15, $20 a piece. But I had them in my basement. And we found out that we had mold in our basement.
Oh, no.
So we had to throw everything in our basement away and have it redone. It was weeks and thousands of dollars. And they were victims of it. And it broke my heart because I love them. They brought back memories of me as a kid. Would I have collected 16,000 of them? No, I would not have. I would have known to stop.
I've got two thoughts. The first thought is you won't spend $80 on a book, but you'll spend $200 on a handbag. And then secondly, I think that let's say you are a fan of Nancy Drew and you want to own the books and maybe a couple of other pieces of memorabilia. Maybe there's some posters or some point of purchase kind of merchandise kind of thing that was out when the books came out. So I understand that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's when it consumes your life, this poor and her husband actually doing it with her. I want to give him the name of Dave just because I feel bad for him, kind of like I feel bad for your husband.
Shut
poor
up.
Dave.
I'm just calling this man an enabler. He's enabling her. And you know what's sad is did you ever see, I can't remember, I think it was The Dead Files. There was an episode on The Dead Files where this woman had so many dolls that you could barely walk in her house. And her daughter was having all of these horrible experiences. And Amy said to the woman, you know, these dolls are taking on all of this energy, and it's negative energy, and it's projecting to your daughter. You really need to get rid of these dolls. And the woman actually was kind of wishy-washy on it. And I'm thinking, that's my child. If that's happening to me, those dolls are gone.
3 words: burn the dolls.
Yes, I'm not a doll fan.
So I think it's okay. I think it's okay to collect a few things, but I think if it gets out of hand, if all of a sudden, like, you've got this huge collection and it, you know, engulfs your time, just move on.
If you're at the point where you have thousands upon thousands of items and your goal is a Guinness World Record, I think that's the point where done.
So we were going to do this a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about collecting things. Those Funko Pops. I've got a couple. I've got the Golden Girls. I've got some from Futurama. I've got Jim Henson. I've got a couple of Fred Rogers, and I've got 3 Bob Ross because I love Bob Ross. Okay. I own 3 Funko Pops of Bob Ross. I have a mug from Bob Ross. And then you sent me an energy drink from Bob Ross.
I thought it was so funny. I saw the energy drink because every once in a while, I'll just for fun, I'll look up Bob Ross stuff because I know how much you love him. And I'll just see what's out there. And most of it's your typical Funko Pop or, you know, a mug or, you know, I think I sent you a cookbook, didn't I? I sent you a Bob Ross cookbook, too.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. So, you know, I like the unusual things, the things that'll make you laugh or, you know.
But there's a prime example. Like, there are certain things that I really hold dear and I treasure, but I don't need to have a bunch of stuff in order to appreciate it.
Exactly. I have Funko Pops, too. I have, my little goal is the Addams Family. I love the Addams Family. I just have a couple more that I have to get for that. So, you know, and I have a Mr. Rogers because I love Mr. Rogers. And, you know, but do I need a million Funko Pops? No, I don't need a million Funko Pops. My dog, Spike, is going to look at me like I'm nuts. Even the dog.
Does.
Shush.
He already does.
Bleh. So, anyways, so, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that it's a smart thing to have 16,000 Winnie the Pooh items.
I like Winnie the Pooh. Is that part of Disney or is that separate?
I think it's Disney. Yes, because when we were at Magic Kingdom and stuff, there was Winnie the Pooh. Okay.
Well, I will just say this. Disney is evil. And the fact that they own the Muppets now is horrendous. And so while I think Winnie the Pooh in overall is rather comforting, I think those pictures and those drawings and those stories are very comforting. They're evil because it's Disney. So,
well, I will just say this. I can, you know, take it or leave it, all of the three parks, the Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, and Epcot. I can take them or leave them. I've been there several times. But nothing, including you will never tell me that Magic Kingdom is evil because...
It's evil.
It's my favorite place to go. I love it there.
The man was evil. Read up on him.
I know,
he
but
was
I love
evil.
it there. It's just, it's like being a kid. It's like being a kid. I don't know.
Trust me, when you go there, they're shooting you full of shit. You know, not like directly, but it's a brainwashing thing.
I did ride Space Mountain all by myself last time I was there.
There you go. And look what happened to you.
Dave wouldn't go on it because he's not good with that stuff. So I said, I'm going to go by myself.
Finally, he stood up against you and said, no, I'm not going to do it. Now look at yourself. See what you're like.
He gets really sick. He gets motion sick. So there was no way he was going to be able to do that one because you go in the dark and it's old, too. So you can't see what you're doing or where you're going. And I was on the ride with this man and his little girl. And we had a great time, but I don't think I would ever do Space Mountain again. One and done.
Did the man show you his phone and it say, I'm Satan? Is that what happened?
He was kind of cute. I don't know. It would have been fun. You know, hit on by Satan if he's cute. Not some 20-year-old guy with a black mask on his face.
That was weird news. All right, so let's talk about dreams.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things in life where it connects everybody because everybody has had a bad dream. Everybody's had either a recurring dream or something that really, really scares them. And so I think to talk about dreams is very natural for people. And I think it's a great conversation starter. Not like if you're on the subway going, I'm Satan, what do you dream about? That's not what you want to do. But
No.
but I think it is a way to talk about, what dreams mean and what they can mean and all that kind of stuff. So I've got a number of dreams I'm going to share with you or not share with you depending on time. I want to hear one of the dreams that stood out for you growing up or even now in life.
I had 3 recurring dreams as a child. Now, just a little quick background. I was told a couple of years ago that I was reincarnated, and one of my lives was in the Holocaust. I was a prisoner. I was a mother. I was a prisoner in one of the camps during the Holocaust, and I lost my 2 children. Now, once I was never big on reincarnation, but after I was told that, and I sort of started to, maybe, I guess you could call it, connect the dots in my life. And the whole idea of reincarnation is that sometimes you come back to try and, fix things or change things that you didn't fulfill in your previous life. You sort of react to things that happened in your previous life, and that's what makes you the way you are in this life. And so I started to think back on my entire life and things that have happened to me, the way that I am, why I am certain ways, and I connected the dots, and it started to make a lot of sense to me. Now, my jury's still out on it, of course, but I was looking back at one of my recurring dreams that I had when I was a child, and they say that when you're a child and you're reincarnated, you tend to be closer to that, I guess, veil of remembrance. And so things will resonate with you. Not every child remembers their life completely. They can't give dates and times and names. Some can. And then, but you have dreams and you have feelings. And then as you get older, it starts to fade a little bit. And I had this recurring dream when I was young, probably until I was about 5 or 6 years old. And I was walking along this concrete path, and there were benches on the side. And then I would walk over by the bench and look down, and it was just a drop-off. It was just a cliff, a drop-off, and I never fell into the hole, quote, the hole, but it terrified me to be standing at the edge of the hole. And one day, I don't know why, you and I were talking about recurring dreams, just talking about it one day. Right. And it sort of, the light bulb went on for me, and I said, if I was a woman who died during the Holocaust, they used to dig trenches for the bodies. And what they would do is they would, in a lot of times, if they weren't gassed, they would be lined up along the trench and shot. And then they would fall into the trench. And eventually, when they had enough bodies, they would cover them with dirt, and that was the end of that. And I sort of thought to myself, what if that was what it represented? Maybe it's not as big of a stretch as one might think when I've looked at all the other things that go on in my life, and I can actually say, I've never had children, and maybe the terror of losing your children in something like the Holocaust, I've never wanted children. I've always been heavy, and so if I was in a concentration camp during the Holocaust, I was probably starving to death. That's why maybe I am heavier, is that I came with a different metabolism. I came with a different appetite, a different way, because I'm terrified of being hungry again. All kinds of things like that. And I thought, what if that's what it represented? And it's funny because as I got older, that dream just stopped. I never had it again. And I would have that dream maybe every, 6 months I'd have that dream, and it was terrifying. And as a child, these dreams are just terrifying when you wake up in the middle of something like that, just knowing that you could fall over. You never do, but you could fall over into the abyss. Just a very scary recurring dream for me.
I think, too, like what you dream of as a child, and what you dream of as an adult may not always be that different, but there's like a different context. So a recurring dream, when I was a child, I dreamt a lot, like nightmare stuff. In fact, I would wake up in the middle of the night and scream for my dad, and he would come running in the room every time. And in fact, one time I was dreaming, horrible nightmare, woke up screaming for my dad. He came in the room, but it wasn't my dad, because my dad slept in his underwear, and this dad, who looked like my dad, had pants on.
Wow.
So I was dreaming that he came, and I was still in the dream at that point, which was kind of freaky. But the thing, I had a couple of recurring dreams. The one that always freaked me out was the basement dream. We lived in a duplex, and the basement, typical basement, you walk downstairs, there's kind of a wide open area, and then back in the corners where the washer and the dryer is. And for folks who have basements, that's kind of how it's laid out. The furnace is there, that kind of thing. And that was kind of like the dark corner of the basement, where the washer and dryer was, big cement sink. That's kind of spooky in itself. And I would go downstairs, and I would see in this corner a man. And the best way I can describe him, it was just the outline of him. And it was like, do you know when you see stars in your eyes? Like if you rub your eyes really hard and you kind of get those flashes of light?
Yeah.
That was his outline, just constant flashes of light.
Wow.
And then and big eyes, big round eyes that again, just the outer circle that flashed with energy. And then he runs and he grabs me, and then I wake up. And I must have had that 150 times as a kid.
That's
just
scary.
Over and over and over.
That's scary.
But I know I mentioned on the show that my mom would let us kids watch all these scary movies. So vampires were a big part of growing up and having dreams. And so my mom makes me watch vampire movies before, and I'm like 3 or 4 years old. And I'm laying awake knowing that there's a coffin at the end of my bed that's going to open up and Dracula's going to pop out of it. While also on the wall, there is a hobo clown painting, which, by the way, I'm afraid of clowns.
You know what? Those were a big deal. People had those hobo clown paintings like all the time. They're fucking scary.
I know. What was it? Emmett Kelly or somebody like that was a clown. Yeah, right?
Scary.
So everybody in the 70s had hobo clowns. And I'm sorry, clowns scared the living fuck out of me. So here I am. I know there's a vampire at the end of my bed. I've got this freaking clown, which it didn't matter where you were in the room. This thing was looking at you. So there was just all this stuff, you know, as a child dreaming, it was really about just being scared about that kind of stuff, scary stuff.
That can scar you for life. And I'm not being funny.
Are you kidding me?
It can scar you for life.
Bring a clown near me, I'll tell you what. I'm running and screaming like a little girl the other direction.
I'm not a clown fan. They don't do anything for me. But those clowns back in the 70s, those Emmett Kelly ones, everybody had those. And people thought it was cute to put them in nurseries. And I'm like, those things are horrible. I wouldn't want one of those.
No wonder everybody in our generation's fucked up because they had clowns in their room.
If you're enjoying this episode of the Sandy and Toddcast, there's more where that came from. Follow Sandy and Todd on Facebook. Just look for the Sandy and Toddcast, or you can subscribe to their YouTube channel and check out the video version each week there. Find these guys on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Soon you'll be able to support the Sandy and Toddcast on Patreon and be able to follow them on Instagram. As always, thanks for joining in the fun, and stay weird.
When I got older, I had a weird series of dreams about vampires that was totally different. And it was very realistic, and it was about them. It was about my realization that they were real and they weren't a fake thing. And some interesting things happened during that series of dreams. Those went on for a number of years. One of the things that was odd was I was in my childhood home. And I knew that vampires were coming because my family told me they're going to come for you. You're next. They had already come for my family. Now they were going to come for me. And so I knew that the sun was going down and I knew I had to be ready. So my mother's bedroom always had a metal cross on the wall, Jesus hanging on it.
Right.
And that was from my grandmother's coffin. When my mom's mother died, that was the cross that was in the coffin, and it was always hanging on her wall. In my dream, there were two crosses for whatever reason, and I grabbed both, and that's what I used to try and stab myself away from the vampires. I won't get into that portion of it. But the ironic part of it is about 2 months after that, my grandfather passed away.
Wow.
And so at that point, there were two crosses on my mom's wall. So I don't know if it was a precursor. I don't know if vampires are real. I tend to think they could be. Maybe not on this realm or this, but
I agree.
I think they could be. So
I think it's possible. It's I've always found that in any legend, there's two sort of perspectives on it. There's the legends itself, which includes all the stories that are made up over time because people just don't know. And then there's like the real truth. And a lot of these legends, these cryptozoology, vampires, there is some truth in them. I don't think there's zero truth. Somehow a legend was started and it didn't just start for no reason. So I think that there's truth in a lot of that stuff. There's something going on. We don't know. And I'm not talking about 18-year-old kids who cut each other and suck each other's blood because they think it's amazing. I'm talking about real vampires. And I do believe that there is something to it.
Yeah, whether it's just pure evil, whether it's, something, who knows? So we reached out on Facebook and we said, tell us your dreams. And we got a ton of response.
Yeah.
So I thought we could share some of these.
Yeah, I love it. Ready.
All right. First one is actually from my sister, who is, your biggest fan.
I love her.
She says, I've had a reoccurring dream my whole life where someone's chasing me and I'm on my hands and knees pulling grass trying to get away faster. I always wake up before they get to me, knock on wood. I haven't had this dream recently. I've had that dream where you're trying to run and you can't. I find myself sometimes running on all fours because it's easier for me to run and like run with my fingers like claws to try and pull myself along.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
I don't have a lot of chasing dreams, but now everybody dreams. Everybody has dreams every single night. You can wake up and say, what? What?
It's like that book, Everybody Poops.
Yeah, everybody poops, everybody dreams. Okay?
Right.
We all dream. Every single night we dream. We just don't remember most of them.
Right.
The only ones that I ever remember are really scary or uncomfortable ones. A few weeks ago, I had this weird dream where I woke up and went back to sleep right back into where I left off on the other dream. And I consciously said, I want to go back into that dream. And I did, which was wild. But they say that chasing, if you're being chased in a dream, it might mean that you're trying to avoid something in your life, in your daily life, that there's something subconsciously that you are trying to get away from, something that doesn't sit well with you, something, maybe you're too stressed about something and you're just trying to escape it. That's what they say that being chased in a dream means. Did you know there was a poll that Newsweek did, and they found that 43% of Americans actually believe that your dreams do mean something, that they're not just dreams for dreaming's sake, that they actually they reveal kind of unconscious wishes, desires, or issues that you're having in your everyday life. So almost half of us do believe that that's, dream interpretation is a big deal. So if she's being chased, there might be something that she just isn't happy with in her daily life. It could be, I don't want to have to clean the bathroom, or it could be something like, I don't like my job.
Right.
But,
it could be something deep.
Yeah, it could be something very deep, So that was interesting, to be chased. I don't remember having any dreams where I was chased, although I may have.
I've a lot of times I've dreamed that I'm being chased while flying, and I had mentioned that I had some dreams about vampires and stuff when I was a little younger, and there was a showdown of vampires, if you will. And ever since, I used to be able to fly in my dreams like crazy good, And now I really have to struggle to do it. Don't laugh at my
Your
dreams.
whole face lit up when you said that. You're like, crazy good. I could fly great.
Okay, I see how this is going to go. Let's get to Anne's dream here.
All right.
Anne says, scariest and recurring dream, although she hasn't had it in a while, was being chased in the tunnels under her middle school. There were tunnels under that school.
Ugh.
Getting away from whatever's chasing me to end up in the parking lot where there's a giant ghost pirate ship that she would have to get on board. On the ship is her father, who's a ghost, and others who are forced to glue sandpaper to wood pieces. She's forced to join them.
I have no idea.
And then she says, end scene.
That is one fantastic dream. I wouldn't even know how to begin to interpret that one.
That is like to know that much and to have it recur, like sandpaper on wood.
Yeah.
Your dad's a ghost. She says, she goes, I know it sounds odd, but legit, it's my scariest dream ever.
It's amazing because there's like so many different elements of it. She's underneath her school being chased through tunnels. Maybe it's just, I hated school as a kid. But then where does the pirate ship come in?
I don't know.
She escapes, so that's sort of like freedom. And then the pirate ship and the sand on the wood, I don't know.
And her dad's a ghost pirate, apparently.
Her dad's a ghost pirate.
Amanda
I bet that was cool, though.
Well, hopefully it was cool. Amanda says, I have multiple recurring dreams about my mom's dead body haunting me. Okay. But she says, I have a series of murder-death dreams a couple times a year. The one that sticks out the most is shortly after I discovered I was pregnant. I began having dreams that occurred in my room I slept in heightened detail. There was this thin woman in a hospital gown who was standing next to my fiancé. And when I sat up, thinking I was awake, I still saw her in the reflection of the TV. She dropped to the ground and began crawling toward my side of the bed. I couldn't move or scream. By the time I could finally scream, she was about to touch me, but again, couldn't physically see her, only through the TV reflection, and couldn't tell if I was awake or asleep.
Was this a recurring dream? Did she
This
say?
was I believe it is.
Wow. That's scary. That's like
And
a
there's
movie.
there's something about reflections too. And I'm not talking about mirrors, because if you do any paranormal research and investigating and stuff like that, you can see things in mirrors that aren't there, blah, 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 blah. But I have had experiences, and you and I have had an experience with an investigation recently where the person only saw things in reflections.
Yeah.
And there were things that you and I and other people didn't see, but she did. Reflections.
Reflections are, I don't know, that's a little nerve-wracking because I know that, well, we also know that this person also had psychic abilities, which...
The one that, not the story we just read, but the other person, correct.
The person that we dealt with had some psychic abilities, and I think that played a part in that. But it's true, reflections. And I can't even wrap my head around the whys of why we might be able to see something in a reflection, but not in, quote, real life.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like seeing things in pictures or hearing things on audio that aren't there the first time, I think. I think there is it's kind of like seeing things out of the corner of your eye. You don't see it dead center all the time. It's always going on over there. So I think there's something to that. What it is, I'm not sure.
Speaking of corner of your eye, I had this experience I meant to tell you a few weeks ago. I was sitting here in my studio and I was doing work, and out of the corner of my eye, I kept seeing this movement, and it was black movement, and it was for a second. And Spike was in his bed sleeping, so I knew it wasn't Spike. I feel like it was my dog Jack that I lost last year. That had happened, and that was the first time I'd ever experienced that. We've talked about this before. I tend to block things out, sort of a coping mechanism. I tend to block a lot out.
Right.
And when I was getting Reiki done last fall, they told me that they had seen this little small dog running around the table protecting me the whole time. And I'm wondering if that was Jack. I could see it out of the corner of my eye. I couldn't see anything else when I would turn my head, I couldn't see anything straight on, but out of the corner of my eye, it happened to me 3 times. It wasn't just, oh, my eyes are a little wacky because I've been doing too much work in a row. I really think that that's possible, that he was there. So out of the corner of your eye in a reflection, who knows?
More dreams. This is a good one, too. Jolene says when she was 5, she had a dream she was laying in the backseat of a car with a man with his head wrapped in white material. He starts to unwrap his head, but she always wakes up before she gets to see his face. And she's had that dream throughout her life.
Wow. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, he's trying to reveal himself to her, but can never kind of finish doing that.
Right. So either maybe she doesn't want to know who he is, or
maybe
it's somebody where she suspects they're not what they seem to be. You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that it might be somebody in her life that she has some doubts about, and because we all know that regardless of whether you're a true empath or you're not, we all have the ability to sense things. And some of us have a better ability to sense things about other people, than other people do. And there may be somebody in her life that she's just not so sure is who they present themselves to be. And that's sort of like her mind dealing with that. And maybe she's just afraid to know what he's really like, or her. Just because it's a man in the dream doesn't mean that it's necessarily a man.
Right.
Maybe she's just afraid at this point to see what is really going on. Very interesting.
Or on another level, there's a man that's trying to unwrap his face while she's in the backseat of a car, and they just never, Here's now you want to talk about creepy. Chris sends this one in. He said, my recurring dream is I strain really hard to mentally open and close the closet door in my childhood home. Telekinesis, I guess. Then the next recurring dream is I dare a spirit to do it, and it does. Is spirit kinesis a thing? See, now I think there may be some paranormal connection there. I think that maybe, and I actually know the guy's house. I know what house I think.
I'm nodding my head.
In.
Nobody can see that, but I'm nodding my head. I think you're right.
I think that maybe something did happen when he was younger, or maybe he experienced something, and maybe that's gone away to a certain extent. But I followed up. I said, that's really interesting. And he says, it starts to make me think this actually happened in our house. Did I really stare at that door and watch it slam shut 45 years ago?
Oh, well, I'm with you on that. I think that there's something. That dream to me is a very straightforward dream. There's not really much interpretation there. I think that something happened, and regardless of whether he remembers it happening in real life or he doesn't want to remember it happening in real life,
right,
his subconscious is bringing it forward because he never dealt with it. That's how I feel.
So kind of like you, sweep it under the carpet, but it comes to light at some point.
At some point, it's going to catch up with you, and I think that's his subconscious trying to find a way to bring it out for him because he has to deal with it. You have to deal with it. You can't just pretend it never happened. It's not going to work.
So here's a weird one. Jennifer says, I'm looking up at a Ferris wheel at a man with a handlebar mustache riding around and around in one of the cars. Every time he comes near to where I am standing, his face would extend out toward me like a cartoon and then snap back. It was a dream that came to me early, age 5 or 6, and came back frequently.
Ooh, that would scare me. Like, I can just see, like, the old cartoons where the face was rubbery and it would come out.
Almost like The Mask, but maybe not in a funny manner.
But not
the Mask.
funny. Yeah.
Right.
Because
that's
stuff
freaky.
is, as an adult, we can say, ooh, that's scary. But as a child, that stuff is terrifying. I had this recurring dream where I was in this dark room, sitting in a chair in the middle of the room remember the old detective scenes where they'd have one light bulb hanging?
Yep.
And the chair underneath with the spotlight. And I was sitting in a chair like that, and I had to say my ABCs. And I'd get halfway through the alphabet, and I couldn't remember what the next letter was. And rather than remembering it and moving on and finishing the alphabet, I always had to start over. And now that sounds kind of silly as an adult, but, and I've actually had people chuckle at it, but as a child, that's terrifying. Because who's stopping me from finishing? Like, something was there stopping me. And it was terrifying that I couldn't finish what I wanted to finish.
It was Satan in the subway.
He was trying to date me at age 4.
Yes.
But yeah, so who knows? You know, we laugh at these things as adults, but to a child, this stuff is terrifying.
Pam says, recurring dream, not for quite some time now, about being outside and seeing a tornado coming across a field. I stand there knowing I have time to watch it, and when it gets close enough, I need to run, but my legs don't work. They feel like jelly, and I fall. And as the tornado gets closer, I wake up right before it's on top of me. When I wake up, my heart is beating so fast, it takes me a bit to calm down and get back to sleep.
I've had those dreams.
Listen, I think we've all, and I've had dreams where I've gotten better as I've gotten older about knowing when it's a dream and not getting too worked up about stuff. Mm-hmm. But I would have dreams where there was 4 or 5 tornadoes coming.
Yes,
just you could look in the sky and there were 4 or 5 of them, you know, and I would get worked up. Now I have those dreams. It's like, okay, this is just a dream. Mm-hmm. Everything's cool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, but I mean, I think everybody dreams about tornadoes, don't we?
But when you first wake up, that's even as an adult, because I've had a lot of those as an adult. You know, like tornadoes, we'd be in the country and there'd be tornadoes coming at me from every direction. And we'd either be in a car trying to get away, or I'd be at my grandmother's house. Because all of my dreams, whenever there's a house in my dreams, it's in my grandparents' house. No other house. I'm never in any other house in the world, and I've lived in plenty of houses my whole life. They're always in my grandparents' house. But there'd be tons of tornadoes, and we'd be trying to escape them, and we'd go in the basement and everything, but they keep coming, and that's terrifying when you first wake up. Because you're just unsettled. And then you realize, well, that was just a dream and you're fine. But yeah, I've had those dreams too. I don't know what that means, but I can relate.
I wonder if it has anything to do with us all watching The Wizard of Oz as a child. because the visual of it is not far off from what you see in that movie.
I know.
It's very similar.
You're right.
Heather says, I've had a reoccurring dream of being chased by wolves since I was a child. Sometimes the dream ends with me just being endlessly chased, as if I'm watching myself being chased. Other times I get cornered and the wolves are literally coming at me. I always wake up right before they jump me. Still freaks me out to this day.
I don't like wolves in dreams. It's
Why?
A little freaky. I don't know. It's a little freaky. Wolves. I don't have a problem with wolves in real life, but I don't know. Wolves in, maybe it's the whole, werewolf idea from a kid. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
I don't know. I think, again, it's that chase dream that we all have. So something's chasing us, something's bothering us, and whatever in that dream it is, whether it's flying monkeys or vampires or it's wolves, or I had another one from Lori who said that the steers got out in her dream and she'd go chasing after them, but then they'd start chasing her and she'd wake up just before they trampled her. So I think there is something about being chased in life. Something's chasing us. And that translates to dreams.
Yeah, I think that any dream where you're being chased they're all the same, so to speak. I think maybe subconsciously, if there's something that you're uncomfortable about, that's what manifests itself in the dream as what's chasing you. Or if there's a place that you don't like, that you feel uncomfortable about, that's where you're being chased. So I think we all basically have the same kind of dreams. There are obviously exceptions, but we all have the same kind of dreams. It's just a matter of what our subconscious and our life experience inserts into the dream that makes us uncomfortable or scared. It's what we're dealing with personally.
I recently had a dream, and I will say this. If I have a bad dream, even if I know it's a dream, if I have a bad dream, I always wake up saying the Lord's Prayer over and over and over and over, and doing the sign of the frickin' cross in front of me like I'm a Catholic or something, because I'm not. But I would either do that, whatever. Or I'll say things like, in Jesus' name, amen, or something stupid like that.
Right.
But at any rate, recently had a dream about my grandparents' house. And this was a house that was a big part of my childhood. They lived not far from me. So literally every afternoon I could ride my bike up there or whatever, and I could visit. House was a little spooky. And I I had a dream that I visited the house. Remember coming up down the street and seeing the house. And in my dream, I said to myself, this is going to be fucked up. So I went into the house and...
you said that to yourself in the dream?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, this is going to be fucked up. So I got to the house, and I remember trying to avoid my grandfather's bedroom because my grandfather was a little weird. He was in World War I and had been gassed. And so between that and dementia and all that kind of stuff, he was rather odd.
Yeah.
And as a child, I'm very scared of this man. So I avoided his bedroom because I just knew it was haunted. I knew if I went in there, I was going to come across his spirit. So I went to my grandmother's room. And I remember my grandmother's room being very comforting. There were a lot of trees around their house, so the sunlight would flicker in there in the afternoon. It was just a very comforting place to kind of be and see.
Right.
And I was standing outside her room thinking, oh, I really miss Grandma. And then there was this kind of this darkness or cloud or shadow that kind of started forming in there. And then I knew I was in deep shit. I don't know where it came from, what it meant, but I was out of that house as fast as I could, woke myself up, and I was doing the Lord's Prayer. And I was up for hours after that because of it. So
one thing that I think, basically, to sort of wrap it up, I think that dreams are pretty fascinating in that they're sort of an insight into our psyche, into the things that are going on in our lives. We also have, my grandmother had premonition dreams. People with abilities, they have dreams that can be premonition dreams, or, sometimes I'll have dreams about people in my life that maybe aren't having a good time, and I'll talk to them and they're not having a good time in their life. But I think in general, they're pretty fascinating windows into our personal psyche and what's really going on in my life. I don't think we pay enough attention to our dreams. I think we say, oh, that's scary, or oh, that was funny, or oh, that was a beautiful dream, but we don't try to understand why it was like that. And maybe, and I had that experience. I had a recurring dream until I was about 20 years old, and it was very terrifying to me and very uncomfortable, and I never understood why I had it. And then one day somebody told me something and it clicked, and I finally understood why I had that dream, and then I never had it again.
Right.
No, I had it for years until I was 20 years old, and after I found out why I was having that dream, I never had it again. And here I am 30 years later, I've never had that dream again. I'm an old woman. So it's very important. I think we should all...
prune
You're
juice.
such a jerk. You're such a jerk. But I think that we should all take the time to maybe look into some of these dreams ourselves. There are dream dictionaries online. I'll put up a link in our show notes of a dream dictionary that people can use to sort of look up keywords from their dream and maybe find out what's going on with that.
Dude, just one really quick question. I know we got to wrap it up. Do you think that it's possible dreams are a different plane of existence for us? And I'm not talking like that everything that happens in a dream is real, but could it be a different plane of our existence of either something that happened or is happening, and we need to, kind of look at it that way? Or do you just think there are minds racing with information?
Oh, I think that, well, look at my dream about standing on the edge of the abyss. I was able to, and I don't know for sure if it's true, but it kind of makes sense. Looking back, yet another piece of the puzzle tying into a previous life that I may have had. I think there's a lot of different reasons for dreams. I think that our normal dreams maybe are just insights into our psyche today as we live today, or something that happened to us as a child, or our fears. But I think that it's possible, it's highly possible that they could also be, a different level for us, something else that's going on in our lives, or has gone on, or did happen at one point. We don't know. I say this every single time. I know I sound like a broken record, but we just don't know so much. We think as human beings we know a lot, but we don't. We don't really know much. So I think it's highly possible.
I think our new tagline instead of stay weird is we don't know.
We don't
You
know. Listen, it's a good show. You don't know what a good show is. So, screw you, Todd.
And if there's anything we don't know what a good show is. Isn't that right, Sandy?
You don't know what a good show is, Todd. And I actually made a GIF this week of my avatar blowing you kisses with the words "Screw You Todd" over it. So anytime you annoy me in the messenger, I just send you that GIF. Screw you, Todd. Big thanks to everybody who gave us their dreams. I wish we could have gotten to all of them because that was a lot of fun. But we may actually revisit that in the future. We're talking about maybe doing some more dream stuff in the future.
Sure.
So that would be cool. So a big thank you to all of our listeners, all of our followers, everybody who supports us. Patreon coming soon. We've got a few surprises and new things coming your way. Big thank you to Dan Phillips for letting us use his song 600 Miles. You can get in touch with Dan on Facebook, Daniel Phillips Music, and on Instagram at @D_Phillips Music. Check out our Facebook page, The Sandy and Toddcast. You can also, we're hooked up to WhatsApp there. You can message us on the Facebook page or send us something on WhatsApp. Look for us anywhere that you would find your podcasts, Amazon, Audible, Apple, Spotify, the whole 9 yards. And just thank you to everybody. You can email us at thesandyandtoddcast@gmail.com. Todd is still looking for emails so that he can act out bejesus again. He's missing bejesus, so please help with that. And that's all I got. Bye. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
How many more miles left in this race? How long it takes, I don't know.